Now, the best of it all is item number 11, President's Park and new development plans.
Okay.
Joe and Ben,
I have,
or Jeff and Ben, I should say, not Joe and Ben.
So, Mr. Mayor, I brought a new presentation, kind of updating one that we had a couple months ago. So if it works out, I'll plug in my machine and we'll project on the screen.
You're on.
All right.
Let me hit the light.
We can when we get there. Ooh.
Oh, yeah, use these. They're right behind you.
It was really dim before, and I just hit it. And
I might have typed one of them, Ben.
We do have the newsletter going out very rapidly here, as quickly as I can
I pressed the on button. so it's
wake
moving
up, but also on that will be the streets that'll be in for redevelopment or rehabbing. There will be a list in there that Bob has, we've got, so we'll be letting you know on what streets on repairs.
You want the other light? You want the big ones off?
I'm good.
You good?
We'll see what it looks like.
Yeah, while he's getting it set up, as the mayor said, they're working up in the park for the street, so they're doing the full depth repairs right now. That'll probably take them another week or so, and then they may want to let them just sit for about a week and harden. And then you'll see them, they'll mill, 6 inches off the edges, probably 2 feet of it, and then we'll pour and crown it, put it back in and crown. We're gonna use the base of the current road to keep that strength in. They're not gonna mill all that back off, they're gonna keep that in and keep it strength, so they'll just crown it again real nice. In the entire park, so they'll put the parking lot in to the new area that we, by the house. So all that will be finished off and done, and then the whole park will be completely repaved.
wow.
Okay, so this appears to be working, so that's super. Basically, I've got 4 things to go over today. The first is kind of the progress of what's gone on out there the past few months. Public Works has been kind of cleaning the slate for this project. And just to recap, this is President's Park, and I'll zoom in here on the plan. So there's the map of President's Park, and this is with regards to the house that is in the 6 acres that Edgewood has added to the park. And that house currently sits right here. So part 1 of my little presentation here are some photographs. So right now we have the rear patio, which is the cast concrete patio, and a couple of views looking back towards the house. The basic genesis of this is how do we button up the site, kind of clean it up so that it's not a muddy mess, so that people can walk around it right now. We don't have to fence it off. And that any future work that happens here can happen on a clean slate that's not, too cumbersome. So Public Works has been pushing that along. And then you can see back here a view to kind of the first pass of a parking lot. So you can drive up there, and this isn't the final lift of asphalt, but it certainly kind of gives you the feel for it.
And you want to tell them that's not a fire pit in the middle?
That is not a fire pit. That is not a fire pit.
Look,
Another
someone's
shot here.
using
So we
it.
did save the big fir tree that's in the center. Traffic flow kind of works from right to left, and as you swing around this tree, there's a kind of a convenient spot to drop off right here, and then enter the house either via the rear, via the back patio, or to the front. So that's kind of the first phase of what's been going on out in the site. But then it got cold, so Public Works jumped inside and started to do some demolition work. So the house was built in 1950. It's block construction, and then it was furred out with plaster and some drywall. And that was it. So there's no insulation, very little. There was some renovation work done in 2003, so there was some insulation in certain spots. So Public Works took out the interior furring. This is early on, and then as we move along, you can see it starts to open up the floor plan. and there's a center wall that kind of runs down, that bisects the floor plate that's kind of the load-bearing wall that runs down the center. So they basically took those demolition drawings we showed last presentation and have been pushing that forward. A couple more shots of that interior. So our goal will be to further this out with 2x4 construction and a closed cell insulation, sprayed insulation. So it should be pretty tight and energy efficient. And it also gave us the opportunity to look up into the attic space and see what kind of space we could, glean from this volume. And it really helps to stand in the space and see it open. You can get an idea for how many tables, what kind of venues we could host here. A couple shots up into the attic. So it's pretty clean. They've done a great job, and it really helps any prospective contractor to walk through and be able to see the bones of the building. Okay, now my third item here is the committee's been thinking about, what is our inspiration? We showed this picture last go round. This is outside. This is a kind of a cultured stone and wood look, something that looks natural, that would tie into what the intent is a passive park, kind of being one with nature. So if you can imagine, this is the sort of feel we're going to go for in the back patio. And then interior can have some little, keep that wood and stone theme kind of running throughout. There's an image there of kind of a restroom fixture. But yet keep the residential feel of it. We have the senior center, so this is going to be something very different, something much more residential and warm, so that when you do rent it, say it's a birthday party or a family reunion, it should feel like an extension of your own home, yet have the ability and the square footage to eclipse that. Our current footprint of the existing home is about 1,800 square feet, and that's just the first floor. And then here's another great shot. These are, once again, inspirational photographs. Out on that back patio, we're basically taking this, and the last item I'm going to show you is the set of drawings, and we're putting everything we can think of into this package so that we can shoot for the stars and kind of see where we land. So this is an exterior fire pit with a trellis above made of wood, and then some loose seating. So then I'm going to take you then to the drawings themselves. We'll open up this PDF. So this is kind of where we're at. This is a preliminary set of drawings that, there's about 10 pages or so, but if we zoom in here, this is kind of a 3D view of the house. And if you recall, we had a couple of challenges to try to work through, and one of those is that the house sits up on a plinth. So it's not easy to just have ADA roll right into it. So we've done a couple of things here. This drawing shows basically addition of an entry piece. So you get double doors, you get an ADA ramp that gets you up to the entry. So something that's a little more commercial in scale, just to provide, a windbreak. It provides kind of to temper the interior space, yet it also allows us to have the ADA accessibility. So that would happen in the front, but then we would also do it in the back. This is the kind of back cast concrete patio that we just saw, and then this is an idea of a trellis structure that provides some sunshade. And the image here is a little heavy-handed, and we'll refine that. And then in plan, we had a kind of a stage area in the rear where if you had a small band or someone to perform, they could be on that platform. And then over to the right is the fireplace. So I'll jump through to a little more interactive view here. So the basement's pretty straightforward. It's a kind of almost a tandem garage. There's a single garage door and a straight shot back. And then there are some partitions here that could go away. So if you can imagine this whole zone opening up, and this will become our storage for tables, supplies, anything that we need. And we will no longer have a a direct stair going down to this storage area, and that frees up a lot of square footage, but it also helps kind of give you a demising line between public and private.
There
And there's
will be
cistern.
beams in there.
Yes, yes. One of the items that we need to do in this transition from residential to more of a commercial is we have to beef up the floor so that it can take 100 pounds per square foot for assembly use. So we had a structural engineer come and walk through, and it's easy once again for him to see it because it's pretty gutted out. So we'll probably have to add a wide flange. If you can imagine your own basement, you typically have a beam in the center. This basically splits it into thirds, so there's 2 more beams that go into the basement. And that's worst case scenario. Nancy, did you?
Yeah, wasn't there a cistern? Is there a cistern
Yeah.
over there? Is that gonna be,
It's used, he used it for storage and stuff too. It was a dry.
oh, I thought it was wet when we were there. Was it not wet, or was
I
it
don't
just?
Well, it's dark for one.
Might have been darker or something, but.
Very dark.
There's a door that goes into it now, and there was stuff in there.
There were, okay.
There is a pump over
Pump
here.
over there.
Yeah. So then there's the basic floor plan. So we can kind of do a walkthrough. So if you park in the parking lot over here, basically you'll be able to approach it from the front. So you have a bit of a formal entry. You come up these steps. There will not be this many steps. It's not that big of a grade change. You draw this and then you go back and look. So it'll probably be a couple of steps. And then into the entry. And then this is kind of an open space in the front where I envision the left-hand side being more family room feel. This is the original fireplace. So we're going to keep the fireplace, but we'll keep using that cultured stone that I showed you in that inspirational photo. So I got some 3D views of that. And then in the center is a service kitchen, sort of a galley kitchen here with a countertop that wraps around it. So that if you are having a party, and as many of us have seen our own homes, people gather around that kitchen counter. So that will certainly be available kind of as the anchor, the centerpiece of this floor plate. Yet, if you want to split up your party a little bit, you could use this side for more private or simple gathering, and this is a little more public. And then there's over to the left, we have this room that bumps off above the cistern, and I've just labeled that a card room. I could imagine a table being in there. It could be set up as a very small venue. And then off to the right, this is probably the biggest ticket item or the most work is a men's and women's room. And luckily, the way that this was built when they did their addition in the 60s, it's quite generous. So there's room there to put two toilets in each of them. And depending on the men's room, we may add a toilet here and delete out the urinal. So there's a little massaging that can still happen. But at least it kind of breaks the line of sight from the restrooms. You kind of tuck around the corner and then into the door. So it makes it a little more discreet. And then at the top of the plan, we have what we call a dressing room. So we've kind of blown open. That door was originally a single door. So made that a double so that if it is a big party, you could keep those doors open and try to tie those 2 spaces together. Or if you have a scenario where we will have a TV on this back wall, and if it's a game room for, the kids want to go in there and play some games, and maybe the adults are out in the main area, you can divide the space up a little bit. And we also left the powder room there. We're going to redo it, but it's not a bad location for a powder room off of that dressing. And then in the rear, the mudroom is pretty much the same, and then that takes you out to the back patio. And so the back patio, if you go on site, you can see there's already a set of steps and a pathway going up to it. And then in the center, that's a structural. It is not it's not a campfire. The intent is for a structural column there to pick up. This would be the centroid for this trellis structure above. So as you radiate around, you get the fire pit, basically fireplace, and then a performance platform right here, and then another, basically the circular patio that you see now will offset by about 10 to 12 feet, and there will be a composite deck. So the material will change from concrete to composite decking, and then there's a ramp in the back, both for ADA and for tables, things that you need to roll up from downstairs. So this is just flat plan work, so it's a little hard to see, so we'll jump in. And then part of that shtick is, do elevations of all the front and rear elevations. Here's how that front could look as you enter the building, with a little bit of the cultured stone at the base of the two columns, double doors, some glass, and then a spot for our Edgewood logo up above that in the pediment. And then we can use that same stone look discreetly on a couple of different spots. So like this bump out above the cistern, we can use that again. So you keep using that language throughout the project. And then if we do, a shelter house or the gazebo or whatever comes next, we'll use the same palette of materials. And I also see that stone happening back here on the patio in the distance. So it's kind of a theme. Then as we go around the house, this is the kind of the backside that's hard to get to, where all the bushes and trees are. So this is kind of the backside of the restrooms. There's an existing exhaust fan there, and then as you go out to the patio, you can see the backside of the stone fireplace. A couple more elevations. You can start to see the patio a little better here with aluminum rail, one of those black aluminum to kind of mimic wrought iron. And then a couple of cross sections through the house, just to give you an idea of, some areas have basement below them, some do not. So that kind of helped drive our plan as well. This is the dressing area. Is a slab on grade, so there's no basement below that. And two more views of cross sections through the house. So this is basically getting everything in some sort of order so that we can start to get some numbers, get some idea of where are we at. Jumped in here, started looking at the elevations of the main room. The committee talked about different finishes and having a wainscot of some sort to really give it a nice feel. So that's kind of the bottom portion, and then trim around all the doors. The beauty of this is we're redoing all the interior furring, so we really can do new trim work throughout. Casings around each of the windows, and French doors. And then as you get to the kitchenette area, there's the stone. This is the fireplace. So the fireplace is clad in that same stone once again. So that theme kind of runs throughout. And then this is the bar countertop where you'd walk up to, and then the kitchen beyond. So it gives them dimensions and kind of basic layouts of how things can work, a refrigerator, a range. And we've already had some feedback about whether, we probably won't have a range top, but we'll have an oven. We'll go to the next page here. These are images we actually saw last go round. So these are very generic in form, so you're not seeing all the materials on them. But as you come in the door, as you look to the right, that's the two restrooms. And so there will be a nice display wall there where we'll be able to put either History of Edgewood or whatever we want, or it could be a rotating display. And then as you come in the door and look to the left, coming in the front door, there's the bar countertop there. And then once again, you get another kind of presentation wall.
That might even end up being like the media wall, where there's a large place for people to put their pictures on themselves or run
if you have an event and maybe you want
PowerPoint or something on it, or a video.
And then like this would be the stone again, so you're not seeing all the materials in these views, but it gives you a little bit of a feel. Some of the positive thoughts that we've had is that with the structural engineer there, we have the opportunity to adjust the ceiling height, because that is one of the kickers with this, is you have this 8.0 ceiling height, and that's kind of tough. When you look up and you see a stick-built roof, that you really could open it up and have some nice volume to the space. So we are investigating that, and doing maybe some turnbuckles and really vaulting that space. So So let's jump to, okay, so these are a little more recent. So this is the back patio. Kind of gives you a feel for this radial pattern from that, the circular, spine in the center. So each of these columns being clad with stone. And right now, this top grid is, like I said, a little heavy-handed, so imagine it a little lighter. But if you're standing out on that patio, you could really get some nice sun shading. And then this, up here would be the performance platform. And then over to the right would be the fireplace. And then there's a little closer up view of how that fireplace could work. So you just keep using these columns that come down. They either flank or define a space. So this defines the zone of the fireplace. And it also defines a zone of a little, gate here so that somebody could exit the patio and do maintenance. Another kind of similar view. Well, let's take one more look. We're getting close. Oh, and then just some ideas on lighting layouts. I mean,
That fireplace is gonna be gas, it's not gonna be.
I was just gonna ask, is that,
Yeah.
yeah.
well, and that's actually, the gas is a new wrinkle. That's a positive wrinkle. We got a new gas line out there.
Yeah, I had to
now.
fight Jeff on that, but we got the gas back there.
Yeah, I can't see bringing.
Jeff was on me about.
Bringing in wood and burning the place
Jeff was on
down.
me about getting the gas
Yeah.
line, so, and we've gotta make that meter within so many months or else they charge us $10,000 for running it, so we gotta get something back there burning.
Oh. I'll
Making
run
the
it.
meter move. So,
So really, that's it for the summary right now. I think it's really exciting. I think it's
Oh, I
going to be a
think
great venue.
Oh, I can't wait. I think it's gonna be awesome. I walked up there yesterday, actually. And it was the
Yeah.
first thing my daughter said, "Oh, yeah, putting a fire pit," and I said, "I don't think there's gonna
It's
be
a
a fire
little
pit
fire
there.
pit.
It's
I
kind
should
of
just put a
small
sign
and
that says, Not a fire.
not a fire pit, but it looks neat where they've gutted it. And
I
I
like
think
the
you've done
idea
a
that
fantastic
we're trying
job,
to
Jeff,
bring
and-
some
Yeah.
history into it, because that was one of the things we talked about, is there is no place for history in our city
True.
to display, and I'm encouraged by that. I think that's a grand thing to add it somewhere, whether it go into that card room or the focal walls you talked about, or however.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have a rotating display because there are items. I mean, we do have.
Oh, we've got a
items.
lot of things in regards to the parks and all the other things, what we've done in the past as history in the fire department end of it. But, basically, that would fill up the walls very quickly, or that particular wall. But no, I say thank you very much for all that you've done. And we now have the blueprints, and we now have everything to go out from the standpoint of getting the costs.